broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello everyone and welcome to this special post-US election edition on WilmsFront on this Wednesday, the 4th of November 2020. We are live on the WilmsFront YouTube and DLive channels, not on the Facebook page tonight because lately our analysis shows that it's being shadow banned. So it's officially the day after the 2020 US presidential, House and Senate election. But we have a situation where the vote count in the key swing states was suddenly halted at the end of election night. They put the brakes on it, which means that neither President Trump or Joe Biden have reached the required 270 electoral votes needed in the Electoral College to claim victory. It is nearly the day after tomorrow of the US election here with at 10 past 9 p.m. here in Melbourne. Myself, I'm doing a marathon session of shows. We did the Unshackled US election stream from midday Melbourne time to 4 p.m. We ended it at 4 p.m. because it was clear that counting had stopped in those key swing states, so there was no point in continuing while the result was so unclear. But we are getting the votes have started to be counted again, and it's as we feared with the mail-in ballots.
Yeah, it's oh, it's kind of suspicious that they just randomly stop counting out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden this happens with the mail-in ballots.
Introducing Logan Spalding for your first time on WilmsFront. You've been a regular on the Unshackled.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Howdy, everyone.
Now there is some breaking news with the restart of the counts in that Joe Biden has taken the lead in Wisconsin and is now in front by 8,000 votes, and that's with 95% of precincts reporting in, which is exactly what we feared, that even though Donald Trump was clearly in the lead, these mail-in ballots that Trump had been warning were ripe for fraud. They have clearly tipped it in Wisconsin. We look at Michigan, 82%. Trump still has a 4.6% lead here, but only 82% reporting at the moment. And Pennsylvania, they seem to have, put the brakes on completely. The count there, Trump's still ahead by 12.7 points, but that is really concerning about that. It's nearly all that count. They've counted a bit more, and now Biden is in front. And if Biden wins Wisconsin, then Trump has to hang on to Michigan and Pennsylvania. Over in South Carolina, he is still well in front by 100,000 votes, and this North Carolina, 94% as well. Trump's ahead by 75,000 votes.
Florida is one of the important states, isn't it?
Yes, Trump has easily won that, which he needed to. Yeah. And all the indications on the ground with all the Trump convoys and boat rides and rallies there, I couldn't see him not winning that unless all the Biden supporters were really shy, which wasn't the case. Trump has easily won Florida with a margin of over 250,000 votes.
Okay. Oh man, What do you think will happen? Do you think Trump will actually push through this, or do you think the Democrats will be able to use the mail-in ballots for cheating in a way of winning? So Do you think their cheating will be the one that elects Biden?
That's based on what's happening in Wisconsin. That's how they could get over the line. And this is what Trump, he addressed the media at 3 a.m. Washington time. He said they knew they couldn't win, so they're saying, let's go to court. I predicted this, Trump said. All of a sudden, everything just stopped. This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this country, and frankly, we did win this election.
You see, the interesting thing is, no matter how we look at it, even if Trump does lose, in a way, that is still Trump winning because Trump didn't have to cheat to win. The Democrats did. So at the end of the day, if left to how elections are meant to be run without any corruption, I'm pretty sure that you count that as a victory for Trump regardless. And what do you think? Yeah, go on. Actually, you go. You're doing the show.
This mail-in ballot push was it was supposedly to make the elections COVID safe, even though you've got to actually to put your a ballot in the mail, you've got to touch a handle that lots of other people have touched as well. You're obviously using your hand with the ballot to put in the mail, so it could still have various coronavirus pathogens on it if you're that paranoid.
Yeah. Well, I did see this one thing that they could have done. So you know how people obviously drive through the tents to get tested for COVID? Why couldn't they do that for the election? You know, why couldn't they cast their votes by driving through, doing their paper in the car and then putting it in a box? And you don't have to touch anyone. You know, all you have to do is just show your ID, get handed the paper, fill it out, and then put it in the box and drive away. That's it. That's more safe than the mail-in ballots.
That sounds like a nice idea in theory, but thinking about it practically, or you've just told me about it now, no, that doesn't seem like it would work. And we saw in the lead up to the election a lot of shop fronts in major US cities boarding up their businesses, some putting out Black Lives Matter signs there to deter looters. So clearly they're afraid of, clearly they're afraid of violence from Trump supporters if they're putting out Black Lives Matter banners on the front of their businesses.
Yeah, it's sort of like an extra measure to insurance, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, I mean, they wouldn't paint on the front of their boarded up businesses "Proud of your boy" like you've got on.
I'm gonna be the target of rioting and looting. But I can see them all, you know, battening down the hatches now and getting ready for. It's kind of funny because it seems like the business owners seem to think Trump's going to win. So,
fearing Trump will win.
Yeah.
Hello to everyone in the live chat joining us on this later time on a Wednesday evening. Because normally start at 7 p.m., but it was just there was too much in limbo because they've started recounting again, so there's a lot more fresh analysis. But this is what's starting to play out now is what a lot of Trump supporters and Trump himself feared.
Yeah, it's like I said before, the Democrats can't win with honesty. That's basically it. The only way they can win is by cheating it all, and that's how you know that they know that the American public does not support them. I mean, you think that for a party that's meant to be standing up for minorities, the working class, whatnot, you'd have a few more people voting for you. But at the end of the day, most people that have jobs at least are mostly voting Republican, mostly voting for Trump. And I love how they're trying to use the excuse of Trump ruined the economy because of this whole COVID thing. They're trying to use that,
COVID
but it wasn't.
Lockdowns ruined the economy.
Yeah, but the COVID lockdowns are all happening in Democrat states. It's not up to Trump to lock everything down. It's up to each individual state to.
We saw the Australian Lockdown Party, the ALP, express their support for Joe, Kamala, and the Democrats. Good luck to our Democrat Party friends across the pond. Oh, you mean across the ocean, don't you? The Pacific Ocean. It's not a pond.
It's a pretty
You
big pond.
geographic illiterates.
Oh, far out. No, they wouldn't be able to tell a rake from a shovel.
And we saw on Parler Donald Trump's confidant, Roger Stone. The reason why he's on Parler is that he's banned from Twitter. And don't forget, he was a victim of the deep state's wrath against Trump's election. Roger Stone, convicted of all of those, witness tampering, perversion of justice. So he said, this is Roger Stone, ladies and gentlemen, the slow motion steal has begun. Hashtag stop the steal by Democrats, stop the steal, Trump 2020.
Yeah. The only way, as I said before, they could win this by cheating. So, but what do you reckon the aftermath will be if scenario A, Trump wins?
Well, we're already seeing some violence break out in, of all places, Portland. The go-to for violence in Portland is Andy No's Twitter account. Don't forget that Antifa made his brain bleed when he was covering the Patriot Rare Rally in Portland in 2019. This is what Portland Antifa group Youth Liberation Front, their plans for Wednesday is fuck Trump, fuck Biden, death to America. We want something better than this trash and we're going to take it. They sound like Islamist terrorists.
Yeah, I was about to say death to America. Where have I heard that before?
And this is another one of their posters. Whoever they vote for, we are ungovernable. November 4th, North Park blocks, meet at 2, move at 5, block encourage. Well, you're right when you say that you lot are ungovernable. I mean, a society that would be run under your rule would be ungovernable. We saw what happened in Chaz Chop in Seattle.
Yeah, just give me 1 second, Tim. Sorry, everyone.
All right, I'll take over for a moment. There's...
sorry, I'll be right back with you, Tim.
Yep, all good. So we're seeing... this is on the streets of Washington, D.C. Bevelyn Beatty stabbed in the back. Multiple Proud Boys stabbed in Washington, D.C. Pro-Trump activist Bevelyn Betty and multiple Proud Boys were stabbed in D.C. while attempting to help another person who was being assaulted. A law enforcement confirmed to the Gateway pundit that the group was walking down the street away from the protest when they saw an older man being stabbed and intervened. One of the Proud Boys was stabbed in the neck and another was stabbed in the ear. Proud Boy chair Enrique Tarrio told a Gateway pundit that the injuries were very serious but not life-threatening. He says they were walking to their cars when they saw a man getting stabbed and got involved. He says the attackers were Black Lives Matter supporters. We were helping some guy that was getting stabbed by 2 black males and 1 female. Bevelyn got stabbed as well as 2 Proud Boys, and the guy they were attacking, I got slashed. It's not serious. We were walking to our cars, Tarrio explained. No arrests have been made at the time. So yes, it has begun on the streets of Portland and also the streets of DC, which is, of course, what we expected there. Proud of your Hunter, who he posted his vlog from the Melbourne Freedom Day protest yesterday outside Victoria's Parliament House during Melbourne Cup Day, when Victoria Police, they encircled the mostly peaceful protesters and processed and fined as many as they could. Yes, let's hope that they, or the cops in DC do find them. I haven't heard about this, Margot, that there was a story about hundreds of ballot papers found in a dumpster. There were reports of that. I have got a newslet just on my phone. No, nothing. Oh, so I've got this alert from our ABC News Australia: a deeply divided country in a race too close to call. This Philip Williams writes from Washington, D.C. is the nightmare scenarios Americans feared, that Trump is on the brink of being re-elected. That's what they feared. I mean, as you saw from that Antifa-aligned group in Portland, no matter who won, they were never going to be satisfied with that. And now going back, there's been a few more votes counted in Wisconsin. There's still, it's 95% in, but it's still Biden is 8,000 votes ahead. There is still no more votes counted in Michigan. Trump is 200,000 votes head there. Still no more votes counted in Pennsylvania. So I don't know what's happening in Pennsylvania, but this broke before the election. Oh, sorry, that's not the one here. Trump lashes Supreme Court for ruling on Pennsylvania ballots. President Donald Trump railed against the Supreme Court on Monday for its decision to allow an extended count of Pennsylvania's mail-in ballots postmarked by Election Day, tweeting that doing so would lead to violent unrest in the country. The Supreme Court's decision on voting in Pennsylvania is a very dangerous one, Trump tweeted Monday evening, only hours before Election Day. It will allow rampant and unchecked cheating and will undermine our entire system of laws. It will also induce violence in the streets. Something must be done. And we saw after Biden made his remarks in Wilmington, Delaware, saying that we're on course. Trump put out this tweet here, which Twitter, of course, put one of their infamous a violation of their rules. Some or all of the content shared in this tweet is disputed and might be misleading about an election or other civic processes. Might be misleading. So they didn't say it was misleading, and it says learn about US 2020 security efforts. So Trump tweeted, "We are up big, but they're trying to steal the election. We will never let them do it. Votes cannot be cast after the polls are closed." So yes, what we're seeing now is what we feared was going to play out. Remember, if you want to interact with the show, you can join on Entropy. And we are also, of course, on D Live as well. Sorry, we are on the Unshackled D Live, not the WilmsFront D Live. That's my fault. I made an error with that. Now, when Trump was delivering his address in Washington, D.C., NBC News fact-checked live on the air. NBC cutting into the president's live speech to point out mistruths, state claiming he's won. That cannot be called yet. Just an extraordinary but totally unsurprising given the groundwork Trump laid turn of events. I don't think he laid it. I think that was the Democrat Party machine there. So it's, as people have been saying, it's a nail biting. It's late in the night here. It's just becoming daybreak in the US when counting will resume. But they can count absentee mail-in voting 3 days after the election, as long as they're postmarked the election day. I don't know what verification processes are in place to make sure that people aren't backdating their mail-in ballots. But why don't we have a look at the Senate, which is, of course, one of the houses of Congress, which obviously is important for confirming Supreme Court justices. So I'm using all of this for the Fox News site. Fox News coverage was very biased against Trump. So here you can see it here. So there is the seats up for election. Or you can just see on this map here. So this is the current count here. Democrats 47, Republicans 47. There is 1/3 of the Senate up for election every 2-year cycle. So the senators to serve 6-year terms. So pretty much all of them have been declared except for the 2 Georgia Senate races, and Republicans are leading in both of those. So that would tip the Republicans to 49. They're also ahead in Michigan and also in Maine, which is, of course, the moderate Susan Collins seat as well. So they might just get over the line to 51, the Republicans, and Democrats will remain at 47. So they have lost 2 seats. The Republicans, they lost in Colorado here with former Governor John Hickenlooper beating Republican Cory Gardner. And also they flipped Arizona as well with Mark Kelly, Democrat, defeating Martha McSally, who's the Republican. Logan should be rejoining us soon. He wasn't on our Unshackled panel earlier today, so I'd like to get as much perspective and insights from people today. I know that Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire didn't like the fact that Trump already declared victory, saying it was irresponsible. And there's all these lefties on Twitter saying that they're agreeing with Ben Shapiro, which I think tells you more about Ben Shapiro than the others. So I don't know how much more of the vote is going to be counted. Now we'll go to the House of Representatives races at the moment. So this is how it's looking at the moment. Fox News has already projected that the Democrats will retain control of their House of Representatives. Obviously, but it only looks at the moment. There's 435 seats in the US House of Representatives, and you need 218 for a majority. The Democrats aren't there yet, but Fox News, they already projected that the Democrats would retain the House and that Nancy Pelosi would remain Speaker. So I'm not sure if that makes her she'll continue to be the oldest Speaker because she's age 80 at the moment. Now, we commented on the Unshackables this afternoon that they seem to call all the states that were slightly leaning for Biden right away, but wait forever to call states that Trump had clearly won, taking forever for them to call out. Fox News was the worst offender for it, and the Babylon Bee, the most trusted source for fake news, released this article saying Fox News calls Arizona for Biden after 1 vote counted. Fox News has called Arizona for Joe Biden after just 1 vote was counted. The voter, Bob Johnson, was administered was administered an exit poll, and he said, "Yep, I love Joe Biden. Might as well call it for the state for him now." Immediately, Fox News reporters called the news desk, which made the call to hand the electoral votes to Biden immediately. Fox News says it will wait until Trump wins at least 4 billion votes in Florida before the state is called for him, cautioning patience and reminding voters that there's still plenty of absentee ballots to come in from military overseas and the Chinese government. So yes, that's a cartoonish version of how both Fox News and CNN made their decisions tonight. Methinks they didn't think Trump would win 4 years ago, and many didn't vote. Well, it's clear that, not just the Democrat party machine, the mainstream media, social media, the corporations, they couldn't believe that Trump was able to pull it off 4 years ago, and did everything that they could to make sure that he wouldn't win again. The Biden landslide hasn't happened, so they failed in that regard. There, the fact that Trump is still the favorite at the moment, but it's interesting to note with the popular vote, which Hillary Clinton won in 2016, 65 million to Trump's 62 million votes. If we have a look at the popular vote up here, so Biden has 68.5 million votes. That's 50%. Trump has 66.3 million votes, which is 48.4. If we go to Wisconsin there, nothing's changed there. Nothing's changed in Michigan. They still haven't restarted voting in Pennsylvania as well. So if Wisconsin's anything to go by, it sounds like it might be an agonizing, you would say, grabbing defeat from Trump when it looked like it. That's what sort of sense. That's what I sense. Here's this comment here from Jackson Wheatland. The American Greens have connections to the CCP and the KGB. How do they even get votes? Well, I haven't heard that before. There is a Green Party in the US. I don't know who their candidate was. In 2012 and 2016, Jill Stein was their candidate, who did a GoFundMe for a recount in Michigan. I think she raised about 3 million and said afterwards, "Sorry, no refund if it costs less." Gary Johnson was the Libertarian Party candidate in 2012 to 2016. Jo Jorgensen is a Libertarian Party candidate now. She's been pretty awful, and that's not surprising that not many people have paid attention to her. I see that still in the chat is a lot of Barclays trolls from Saturday night. It's good that you've stuck around for the next couple of shows as well. So thank you for that. So it's clear that it's going to be a long couple of days, and obviously Trump is going to contest these mail-in votes, and so it's clear that the effect, whether it was deliberate or it's just a side effect of the mail-in votes, is to delegitimize the result, whether Trump wins or not, which of course is very, very dangerous for America as a superpower as well, because obviously a Chinese Communist Party led by Xi Jinping, there's been rumors that they've been wanting to exploit the lame duck period between today and January 20th. The Chinese yuan went down today when it looked like Trump was ahead. So certainly the Chinese would be feeling more confident now. It'd be interesting to see the yuan now. But as you can see, just going back to what Fox News has projected at the moment, they still have Biden on 238 electoral votes, Donald Trump on 213. So the headlines, the spin is that Biden's ahead. We look at Georgia here, which they still say is too close to call. Trump is ahead by 100,000 votes, 94% in. North Carolina ahead by 75,000 votes. Nevada, only 67% of the vote counted. Biden is ahead by 23,000 votes, 50% to 48%. There's still a lot of votes to count in California, in Oregon, and in Washington, and that will increase the popular vote for Biden here. So Biden is ahead, you would say, by 2.2 million votes at the moment. So Hillary won by 3 million in the popular vote. So it's clear that we're not going to get a more substantive picture tonight, but I thought it was good to do this stream to all give you an update. I did notice that on Australian Twitter earlier today, the reaction was quite. They were quite concerned. They might be a bit more optimistic now, but certainly they've shed a few tears, done a bit of political bedwetting. Australia's political left, because they've had such a successful year with getting most of the Australian economy shut down, particularly Victoria as well, when, well, our lockdown has been eased, but as you saw yesterday at Victoria's Parliament House, still very much restrictions on human rights and freedoms, even though we've had 5 days of 0 cases. And obviously, they were quite pleased with the New Zealand general election result, with Jacinda Ardern being returned with an absolute majority. So yes, it's going to be, well, I'll certainly have a good night's sleep tonight, because it's been a long drumming day. But I know there'll be a lot of people in Australia who won't sleep easy. As I said, it's just daybreak over in the US. So there's a lot more counting to go. They're counting as slow as possible. Pennsylvania is the slowest. We're not going to get any more counting there. Obviously, the big surprise of the result was the flipping of Arizona. With 84% counted at the moment. Joe Biden is the projected winner, 51% to Donald Trump's 47.5%. So Biden is ahead by nearly 100,000 votes, and a lot of people are saying that that's to do with the McCain family dynasty in there. John McCain, senator for Arizona over 30 years, and even though John McCain died in 2018, his widow Cindy McCain and daughter Megan McCain hate Donald Trump almost more than their father did, and so they did whatever they could, the McCain family, to flip Arizona blue. There could also be demographic change as well, because Arizona is so close to the southern border, because obviously the demographic change in the US has flipped a lot of the states blue. So the California was it was won by Nixon and Reagan, both Republican presidents. Reagan was a governor of California from 67 to 75. It's now permanently blue. Nevada used to be a swing state, even though it looks close now. Hillary won Nevada in 2016. I'd say that's solidly blue. Colorado is going to be full blue now. I mean, look at that, 80% in. Biden ahead, 56% to Trump's 42%. Virginia is now a blue state, 53%. Biden is ahead. Donald Trump 45.5%. Of course, their dream has always been the Democrats to flip Texas blue. That's not going to happen. 84% of the vote counted. Trump 52.3%, Biden 46.3%. and he's now ahead Trump by 700,000 votes. The other dreams are Georgia. Clearly, Fox News still thinks that Biden can win Georgia. And obviously, they want to flip North Carolina as well, which Obama did win in his 2008 Electoral College landslide, but has been Republican ever since. They were hopeful of winning Iowa, the Democrats. Trump did quite a number of rallies in Iowa, but Trump has retained that. Minnesota, Trump held out hopes of winning that because that's where the US civil unrest began with the death of George Floyd back in May and the subsequent riots that kicked off in June. Biden is 7 points ahead and is winning by nearly 250,000 votes. Who's George in Georgia, Sabnik? So yes, it's very unpredictable at the moment. But as we saw before, it is only as we expected, the left side who are engaging in civil unrest in Washington, D.C. and Portland. Apparently, Black Lives Matter, they were already all camped out Washington, D.C. So certainly raring to go. There's still no hashtag yet, not my president. That was what was trending in 2016. Now, coverage of the US election was at absolute saturation point today. Obviously, the Uncockables weren't the only internet media outlet doing their stream. There were countless ones, and then all the mainstream networks, US and Australian, did theirs as well. Anthony Green from the ABC had his own supercomputer out, even though he mainly does electoral math for Australian elections. They had Stan Grant on their US election panel. I'm not sure how much of an expert he is on US politics. They also had Malcolm Turnbull as well on their election panel. And we can be pretty sure that he was for Biden. Former New South Wales Premier Mike Baird, Liberal, is supportive of Biden. Their current New South Wales Liberal Energy Minister, Matt Keane, supports Biden. Former Turnbull Government Defence Minister is supportive of Biden as well. So there's plenty of, Australian Liberals for Biden. And obviously, there's all those polls that are released that if the whole world could vote in US elections, then the Democrats would overwhelmingly win. But the rest of the world seems quite tolerant of coronavirus, economic shutdowns, and lockdowns restricting civil liberties. In the US, they, unlike in Australia and New Zealand, they haven't. The pro-lockdown party hasn't swept to power. People in the US, they value freedom and economic prosperity much higher than certainly we do in Australia. Now, just see if we've got any further updates here. No further updates in Wisconsin, or I think we have got a slight increase in the count in Michigan. Trump is now 200,000 votes ahead. That's with 83. Still nothing in Pennsylvania. It's still stuck on 64%. Tornado in a box that said "fuck polls." Am I right? Well, they were sort of wrong in 2016, even though the polls got the popular vote right, with Hillary Clinton getting 48%, Trump winning 46%. They didn't predict the Electoral College landslide that Trump got. You're able to, with this Fox News map here, go back to the 2016 map here. So it was 306 electoral votes for Donald Trump, 232 for Hillary. Trump won all of the Rust Belt states: Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, won Arizona back then, and also won Florida as well. I would say that Florida is becoming less and less of a swing state because it has consistently voted Republican, both at the presidential, also Senate and governor level as well. The Republicans hold both of the Florida Senate seats. Marco Rubio holds one of them, and former two-term governor of Florida, Rick Scott, holds the other two. Rick Scott was the governor of Florida from 2011 to 2019. He was succeeded by another Republican, Ron DeSantis, who recently was in the news for basically saying enough of these coronavirus restrictions. I'm opening up the state, and our hospitals can handle any uptick in coronavirus admissions because this virus has a 99% recovery rate. So Florida is basically where you want to, if you're pro freedom, and also if you're pro, you would say actual harmonious diversity, Florida is where you want to be, because all the diverse demographic groups in Florida, including the Latinos, the Cubans, they all voted for Trump. So demographics is not destiny in Florida. Though Laura Loomer, who was running for the Florida's 21st district, which takes in West Palm Beach, she lost to Democrat incumbent Lois Frankel. In the counties, if I go into Florida more, so as you can see down in Miami-Dade County, which obviously takes in Miami, Broward. Oh, sorry, this is 2016. I'll go back to 2020. Yep, so Miami-Dade County, well, it's actually Biden just won there, 53 to 46. Brownwood County, which takes in Fort Lauderdale, was more lopsided there for Biden with 64% to 34%. Palm Beach County, Biden 56%, Trump 43%. Then up here is where St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Tampa Bay are. So you can see in the cities there, it's still quite blue there, but most of the rest of Florida counties are quite red there. I saw that some lefties on Twitter said that next time Texas and Florida need some aid with hurricanes, just let them all suffer. That's typical from the left. Just got a news alert from Sky News UK. Small chance COVID jab will be ready before Christmas, Oxford vaccine boss says. Obviously, England is going back into a 4-week or 1 month lockdown. They come out of it on December the 2nd. So they have to shut down now so they don't have to shut down for Christmas is the logic. But as we know here in Melbourne, a short lockdown can turn into a super long lockdown. Ours was 112 days here. But yes, if the people in the UK, they're facing a bleak Christmas, then the vaccine would arrive just in time. I know that given what we've been through here in Melbourne and Victoria, there's a lot of Victorians who'd run for the vaccine. I mean, Dan Andrews is still making people wear masks. He's still we've got another easing of restrictions planned for November the 9th. I mean, if it keeps being 0, which is looking likely, Dan will have no choice but to go to the last step of his roadmap. He can't go against his own roadmap. Yes, you're correct, Senator Slayer. Wisconsin is flipping for Biden now, which is, of course, is very, very scary. Nevada has flipped for Trump. We just looked at Nevada before. That's not something that we saw. I can have a double check to see where things are at. Because yes, no, that's not true at the moment. So if we go to Nevada here, it's still Biden's still ahead by 2 percentage points. No more counting in Michigan. No more counting in Wisconsin. It looks like that Wisconsin, at the moment, that is heading for the courts because that is 8,000 votes. That's hardly anything. That's still not as close as Florida in the year 2000. Al Gore versus George W. Bush, which Bush won Florida by 500 votes when the Supreme Court just ruled that the recount had to stop. Margot says, haven't been keeping track all day, been working. If you're just going off news alerts on your phone, which I was getting them throughout the evening, it was incredibly pro-Biden. It's like Biden wins another state. He's ahead in the electoral college count. So if a normie looked at it, they'd say, oh, yes, that Biden looks in the box seat. That certainly is how the mainstream, and they're all spinning it that way as well, that it's looking more promising for Biden. Of course, they were extremely triggered by Trump claiming victory and then threatening court action to stop counting. What Trump actually meant was to stop counting of votes that are trying to be mailed in after Election Day, which shouldn't be allowed. Well, Higgins says, early count does get you hyped, but then you've got to reduce yourself to a level of reality. I noticed probably Trump's biggest cheerleader in Australia, John Ruddock, suspended New South Wales Liberal Party member. He was quite buoyant at the beginning of the afternoon, but he says he's now 50-50. We were all quite confident on the Uncockables panel, but then we saw the vote grind to a halt, and then we're sort of like, yeah, something's going on here. It's not going to be in the bag here. And there's a lot of funny business yet to play out. I've been going for about 50 minutes now. I'll go to the top of the hour. I just wanted to give you all an update and also to bring you a WilmsFront regular program on a Wednesday night. It wasn't probably the best night to have a featured guest on because obviously everyone's attention is on the US election results, not obviously on other things. So we will have another Uncockables tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the show, YouTube and D Live. That'll focus on the aftermath of the Freedom Day protest at Victoria's Parliament House and Victoria Police entrapping everyone so they could process and fine them. So we'll have Nick Patterson joining us again, who was at the protest. There was quite a number of people from the Melbourne anti-lockdown pro-freedom movement, and they all got fines. Nathan Kyle, who's been on WilmsFront before, he got a fine. The Lizzie Rose, the witch, who's also known as one of the Bunnings Karens, she got a fine as well. There were so many people who got, I think it was close to around 400 arrests and 400 fines, which is quite incredible. They all got the standard $1,652 fines, and they just stamped breach of the chief health officer's directions. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Siniso says, wow, Tim has so many famous guests in the chat. Yeah, so what is it? Paul Keating has become a regular. We used to have Dan Andrews in the chat warning us that he was going to come after us, saying you're not wearing masks while you're on your show. No, because you don't need to wear a mask when you're live broadcasting. But that doesn't stop Lord Mayor Sally Capp from wearing a mask when she's conducting a live interview. We've got plenty of famous or alleged accounts of famous people in this chat here. Outback said Wave 3 coming January 2021. I wouldn't expect it to come in Australia because it will be boiling hot summer there. I wonder if, because obviously, if you fast forward back from November 2020 to January 2020, that was the Black Summer bushfires, and it was going to be the climate apocalypse. Greta Thunberg was holding Australia out as an example of what happens when you don't look after the climate. The coronavirus pandemic has killed Greta Inc., and Greta has been reduced to going back to school. And the irony is Greta's native Sweden has gone for the herd immunity, non-police state approach. They've still got a diversity problem, Sweden, so not perfect, but certainly it's weird at the moment with obviously the terror attack in Nice and then in Austria, that Islamist attacks are back on the rise there, particularly in France, which is supposed to be back in lockdown. How come these Islamists, how come they're not obeying the lockdown? That doesn't, it's sort of like how in Melbourne, youth gang crime is still on the rampage. But Daniel Andrews said, obey the rules. Why aren't these criminals obeying lockdown? And there was a brawl at St Kilda Beach last night, but that didn't get much coverage because it's much more, you would say, politically expedient for the media and Dan Andrews to lash the alleged COVIDiots. And I can't believe there were some alleged progressives who were claiming, oh, why would you protest a lockdown that's ended? Well, obviously, if they're being arrested and fined, getting a lockdown fine, then the lockdown hasn't ended. And obviously, the masks are a sign that the lockdown hasn't ended. Proud of Your Hunter says mask plus muzzle. Yes, it is. A lot of people have pointed out that the muzzle is a sign of obedience. It's also a cheap virtue signaling way to, look, I'm wearing a mask, I'm helping, I've made myself immune from giving people coronavirus and catching it, which is no. You may feel safer, but that's not how the science of masks works. Margaret says, we never really had a first wave, which would nullify the second. Well, the first wave in Australia, as I previously said, was more like a phony wave. It was more just overseas arrivals who were bringing it in and transmitting it amongst their circle of friends. Since when they shut the international borders and introduced hotel quarantine, that's what ended the phony wave in Australia. We hardly had any community transmission, but we all know the story in Victoria, where it escaped hotel quarantine and there was mass community transmission here in Victoria. Margaret Rand's preparing for more mostly peaceful protests. Who from? Can you be a bit more specific there, Margot? Thanks. Thank you for that compliment, Margot. It's been a draining day. This whole election season I found quite draining because they've done election stream for the Eden Monaro by-election back in late June. I think that was our final weekend of freedom in Melbourne before the second lockdown. Then August 22 was the Northern Territory election. Then October 17th had the New Zealand and ACT elections. And then just the Queensland election recently, Saturday, October 31st, Halloween, which was quite spooky. The fact that Anastasia Palaszczuk got re-elected. It might be worth, see if I can bring up update the results for the Queensland election here, because they've kept counting throughout the week. Anastasia Palaszczuk, her Labor government has been returned with a clear majority. Still can't find it. Oh, here we go. Here, ABC elections. So there's they still count the vote slower in Australia. So Queensland election, 78.6% of the vote counted. ALP so far has 50 seats out of 89, LNP 33, and others 7. If we go to the full results here, we'll go to party totals. So there was a swing of 4.5% to the Labor Party, a swing of 2.1% to the Liberal Nationals, swing away from the Greens, but they picked up the seat of South Brisbane off former Labor Deputy Premier Jackie Trad, thanks to LNP preferences. But One Nation was the big loser, with them losing 6.7% of their vote from the 2017 state election, and most of that went back to the Labor Party. Qatar Australian Party was about the same on 2.6%. They retained their 3 seats, and Clive Palmer's United Australia Party, there weren't ads on TV every night like there were in the federal election in Queensland, so it's not surprising they only got 0.6%. But the simplistic explanation for the One Nation vote going to Labor is because Labor was the closed borders party this state election, albeit that they were closing their state borders to New South Wales, keeping us disease-ridden Victorians, New South Welsh people out. And One Nation was for open borders. They wanted the Queensland border open, and so obviously the people who vote for One Nation, well, that 6% who voted against them, they're people who like all closed borders. It doesn't matter whether it's state, international, they just vote for the closed borders party, which was Labor this election. And yes, obviously controlled and sometimes closed borders, completely closed borders are a good thing, but Australia is supposed to be a country made up of states. I mean, if we want to basically dissolve the federation and just become independent states, then let's have that conversation. But if we're going to close all the state borders, then we need to decide, are we a federation or we're something else? Speaking of borders, Premier Gladys Berejiklian today said that she'd reopen the Victoria-New South Wales border on November 23. Dan Andrews said he's discouraged people from going to New South Wales unless it was necessary, because there's a lot to do here. No thanks. I'll make my own mind up about where I want to go when I'm free to do so, Dan Andrews. I mean, he still wants to be a control freak post this pandemic, telling us where should we go for holidays, where we should travel, and that everything. We'll probably get to this tomorrow night, but Dan Andrews, he certainly believes that through his lecturing and hectoring of Victorians and getting the cases down to zero is proof that not just that his strategy is successful, that Victoria is like a communist commune, it's a collective. And so that's what he thinks Victoria is going forward. And there's certainly a lot of other Victorians, like Communist-in-Chief Van Badham, who agree with him. Van Badham has still got as her profile picture her with a mask on. There's nothing more virtue signaling than having your Twitter profile picture you with a mask on. Look at me, I take the virus seriously. I even have a mask in my profile picture. What's Paul Keating said? Finally, Dan making good decision telling Victorians not to come to New South Wales. We don't want those Victorian lefties. Well, I remember Alexandra Marshall, who was on the WilmsFront Queensland Election live stream, said that there should be some anti-communist border declaration when you come up from Victoria to New South Wales. I'd certainly be willing to sign that one. I know that Reg Penny, who was at CPAC Australia today, and virulent anti-communist, would certainly like that as well, because it wasn't just US election day today. It was also CPAC Australia in Sydney. Not many people nationwide could attend because the New South Wales border is only open to South Australia. Obviously, things were looking good during the afternoon at CPAC, but certainly it's more nail-biting now. Had some big names at CPAC Australia, such as Alan Jones, Warren Mundine, Craig Kelly. Reg was one of the volunteers for CPAC Australia, doing some volunteer security out the front, because we remember at the inaugural CPAC Australia 2019, there was a lefty protest out there because Labor Senator Christina Corneli had labelled CPAC a far-right extreme event, which of course, once she publicised it that much, of course, the lefties were all going to go there and protest. They poured a hot coffee on one of the attendees there. Reg posted on his Telegram earlier today. I'm just uploading it here now. Also, happening tonight in South Australia was a postseason NRL State of Origin. Queensland has beaten New South Wales 18-14, but you'll remember last week that the NRL, they were not going to play the national anthem, but before the State of Origin. Then they backflipped, but tonight the NRL players in the State of Origin have refused to sing the national anthem at the Adelaide Oval. So it's clear why the NRL made that initial decision, because it's obviously there was a lot of lobbying from the players that they didn't want to sing it, and they didn't sing it tonight. Anyway, here's Reg dealing with a sole communist at CPAC Australia today.
Today at CPAC, and what we spotted is a wild communist. Now, just to let you know, communists aren't people. They have no souls. And most of all, they are a bunch of drongos.
You believe that Trump is responsible for 130,000 deaths. So, the leader of India.
And what we hear is a debate between the patriot and the communist. And communists are most likely to be triggered, and most likely cowards, when they're on their own and not in packs and not behind their type keyboards. They are actually a bunch of loyal scums of the earth. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, you see communists, take them down.
Well, the only problem is that CDC...
Make them wet their pants. As you see, right down there, a little communist has had enough. He has gone home, back to the basement of his mother and father, crying and whinging because his comrades failed him. And this is the Rich Report.
Yeah, so pretty poor effort there from the New South Wales Communists this year. I will wrap it up now. We have got a bit more of a result from Michigan. They're up to 87% vote counting, and Trump's lead has narrowed in Michigan. He's still ahead by 75,000 votes with 87%, but as we saw with Wisconsin, that can flip there. Even with such a high amount of vote counted. So Michigan's going to be a nail biter as well. Pennsylvania still stuck on 64%. They haven't counted anything else. They haven't counted anything else in North Carolina or Georgia either. Nevada, 67% in now. It's narrowed a bit. Trump is only 8,000 votes in it. So it's not over in Nevada either, but certainly going to be a nail biter over the next couple of days or so. Thank you to everyone for joining me for such a late night edition of WilmsFront. I'll see you all for the Uncockables tomorrow night, and returning Friday night is Trad Tasman Talk, which will be 6 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled's YouTube channel and WilmsFront D Live. Jacinta Ardern has sworn in her new cabinet and ministry. She did do a deal with the Greens, even though she doesn't really need them. One of their co-leaders will get a portfolio out of cabinet, I noticed that the international media were praising her progressive cabinet because she's appointed a gay man as deputy prime minister and as foreign minister a Maori woman with a tattoo on her face. Apparently, that's a big deal as well. All right, we shall see where the next week takes us, and keep an eye both on the votes and the streets of the United States. Thank you so much for watching both the Uncockables and WilmsFront today, and I'll see you all tomorrow night.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com or Rational Rise TV to view the archive of episodes. And keep visiting the Unshackled.net to view all our shows and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.